Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening back to the audio, you're listening to Ask James, a regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community or anything football related. Normally this would be on a Friday, but I'm going to be probably engaged, probably the end of Tottenham's football season. I'll be in Germany on Friday afternoons, bringing it forward to Tuesday this week. We've just gone past 2 p.m. UK time, and as per usual, I'll be answering questions in order of submission. I will cover up until around about 3 p.m. UK time. Got nothing specifically I want to announce. I get straight into the questions for you. CMP is first. Says, hi James. On free hit 33, who do you recommend? My current big decisions are: do I go KDB? And if I pick Rashford, Watkins, or both? Thanks. KDB, I think I would probably want to stick in. I think as per discussion with Tom Campbell on the Game Review podcast yesterday. What a great job Tom did, by the way. Vardiol, Marmoush, and then it's in terms of City. So I probably would punt KDB. I think if I was on a free hit, you don't have to worry about the consequences after. We'll have a clear indication of obviously how we feel about Villa assets after the second leg against Paris Saint-Germain tonight. I have an inkling that Watkins will start tonight. What that means for afterwards might depend a little bit on Rashford's minutes as well. But I would imagine there'll be some rotation across the Newcastle and Man City games Saturday, Tuesday, and then obviously the Saturday Crystal Palace FA Cup semi. Difficult to think many Villa attacking players will play all 4 games. I think if there's confidence in Watkins, you'll want to go there purely because I think the forwards in 33 don't stand out. In terms of the teams with doubles, right, Marmoush is fine. Arsenal, there isn't a forward to choose from. Palace, there's Mateta, and a Mateta I think probably only starts once. And then you've got Watkins. And in terms of the single game week teams, you look at teams with fixtures, you think West Ham, that's nothing. Liverpool, nothing. Manchester United, maybe nothing. There's not a huge amount to look for in terms of forwards for a free hit in 33. And I think many will end up with just 2 up front and go with a 5-man midfield on free hit this week. So it might be your confidence in Watkins. If your confidence in Watkins is strong, I'd probably stick him in. If not, it's probably elsewhere. And then when you compare Rashford to the other midfielders, if you go Saka, cool, you go KDB, you might want a Palace player, Eze or Sarr perhaps. You might want to go for Marino or Martinelli, KDB, Salah, Bowen. It's the room for Rashford. So I think we'll know more how we feel about Villa in the approach towards Saturday, but I wouldn't deem it a necessity to have one. Steve says, great content as always. Love the way you answer questions in order, not cherry pick easier ones or repeated ones or super chats. Like and sub, guys. Thank you, mate. Rewind says, hi, James. Would you rather pick Saka or KDB this week for Palmer? Cheers, mate. A little bit dependent. I think actually free hit's quite close, but I would still prefer Bukayo Saka. If I was buying, that's awkward. I'll tell you why it's awkward. One, KDB, we obviously don't know quite how we'd feel about the final 4 game weeks. It might be you're buying in and then you're chaining it on to something else in game week 34, and I think that's reasonable. Saka, I'm a pre-warn on tomorrow's Clash of Correspondence, which is available for all of our patrons now, including free members. You can sign up as a free member and listen to tomorrow's Clash of Correspondence now on Patreon, which is Ipswich Arsenal with Paul Gott, Alan, and Adam Pritchard. And Adam doesn't think that Saka will start both in the double, and I'm inclined to agree as it stands at the moment. I, as said yesterday, fully intend to captain Omar Marmoush. I'd still want Saka this week. There's not much doubt about that. But the afterwards, if you're buying, is quite awkward. Now, I don't have a free hit left, so I'm going to have to wildcard in game week 34. But for those, many of you will have wildcarded, so you're carrying through later. He obviously then blanks 34. 35 is the Bournemouth game. Now that's likely to be sandwiched now by Champions League semi-finals. And if Arsenal have, hypothetically, PSG, but of course could be Villa, on say the Wednesday and the Tuesday either side of the Bournemouth game, I don't think Saka starts Bournemouth. Then the following week is Liverpool away. So how much of it do you want? And is there enough upside in this week to mean that you should go there? Now, his EO is going to be massive. And as long as he comes through tomorrow night unscathed, I would still definitely want him in a free hit, because I'm sure his minutes will be well in excess of 90. But I think there's a little bit of caution about owning Bukayo Saka beyond game week 33. I think ultimately, Rewind, my decision would still be to go for Saka first and foremost as the outstanding Arsenal attacker. STR says, Game Week 33, 2 free transfers, Gabriel to Saliba, Murphy to Rogers is a question. 10 doublers plus Salah, no bench boost. Would bench Isak? Question. Cheers. Fine. I mean, I can't comment on whether benching Isak's right or wrong, because obviously I can't see the rest of your team. But that's to have Isak as first sub's not going to be a bad position to go in this week. I imagine his ownership will still be very high. I think most bench boost teams are probably still going to own him. Again, back to what I said about the forwards. If you are actually selling Isak in 33, who do you move to? If you've got no confidence in Watkins, there's every chance you've already got Mateta and Marmoush. It might just become an auto that he stays. And you go, right, I'm going to move on Murphy or a defender to doublers instead. So just bear that in mind. I think Isak's ownership will still be really high going into game week 33. Matthew Halliday says, hi James, with the potential double game week 36 in mind, when do you think the next TV picks will be announced that may give us some more clues? Yeah, I think this is really important. There's speculation that there might be a Tuesday night game in those selections. So remember, all the games are scheduled for Sunday anyway in game week 37. That's not to clash with the FA Cup fights on a Saturday. So it's scheduled a Sunday deadline. We believe that's going to stick. I'm certain there'll be a Monday night game. There is speculation there'll be a game put on the Tuesday night as well. Everton-Southampton has been mentioned for that, as it's the final game at Goodison Park. And I know Everton fans have been kind of kicking back against that, some of that speculation. If there is a Tuesday selection game, that adds certain weight to the idea that fixtures postponed for the FA Cup final would be brought forward where that's convenient. And I think that's probably the case for all 3 fixtures, bar West Ham, Nottingham Forest. I don't think would come forward if Forest gets the FA Cup final. That's due to Forest fixture on the Sunday. In terms of when will it be announced, well, it's any time. The game week 37 fixtures should have been announced technically last week. I suspect we're probably in a period now of waiting to see what happens with, and it could be waiting to see what happens with Tottenham on Thursday night in terms of a potential impact of what might happen to that Aston Villa fixture. So really, it's got to be this week. Having got all the way to Tuesday afternoon at time of recording and not had the announcement, realistically, I think it probably waits now till Friday. I'd be surprised if we didn't get it before the weekend, actually, as it should have been last week. But the 36 and 35 fixtures were also a week late. I think we had 36 Tuesday last week. So look, it could even in theory be today. I think having waited this long, it probably makes sense to get these European quarterfinals out of the way and confirm the announcements of what they want to do on Friday. Luke Boy 123 says, hi James, great pod yesterday with Tom, thank you. What would you give as a percentage Marmoush starts both in 33, as I'm thinking for triple captain? Thank you, mate, and good luck on Thursday. Yeah, look, if you're not using another chip, I'd do it. Percentage chance of him starting both. That's 75-80%, I think. Guaranteed starter for 1. It might come down to a little bit of recovery between Saturday and Tuesday, maybe. But I think minutes would be good. I'd sort of circa have him in sort of like the 140 estimated, actually. So I think sort of, 75 to 80%-ish. I think he starts both. Certainly, I'm going to captain him, as I said, is my intention at the moment. Subject to team news, of course. But I'm well aware that he might not start both. But yeah, I think you can feel strong about that as the majority of players in the double. I mean, could you have confidence, bar sort of Raya? How much confidence would you have in even, say, someone like Saliba starting twice? Now, I'd say it's a bit higher. It's probably sort of 85, 90%. Huge shock if he doesn't start at Ipswich on Sunday. I don't think so. Palace have spoken about, I think you're in for some big rotation in 34. City anyway. Villa have got the squad depth that allows them to rotate. So, now, how many players would you have in confidence higher than sort of 75, 80% they start twice? I suppose Morgan Rogers is 100%, is he? Jerry Dharma Hughes says, hello, Jimbo. Should Forest qualify for Europe next season, do you think Nuno should start reducing their park the bus and counter tactic to prevent excessive injuries, or stick with what works? I would suggest, Jerry, that Forest style is more in line as it is with probably avoiding injuries. I wouldn't describe them as a high energy pressing team. They can do it in the top third of the pitch, but largely happy to sit behind the ball. Yes, there's a consequence of ordinarily more work when you don't have the ball, but I think their structure is such and quite narrow that they're quite content with that. And I think Forest largely have been okay for injuries last year, bar some longer term ones which have been unfortunate, such as Danilo's ankle injury. It's nothing to do with excessive playing time. It's a bone injury. There's nothing you can do about that. So I think no, Forest style as it is would probably be more befitting to playing twice a week next year. Birth Media says, greetings James from South Africa. Please pick a differential for each position for double game week 33 in a rogue captaincy shout. Rogue captaincy shout. Does KDB fall in the line now? I mean, Adam is right put off Arsenal assets tomorrow. You really need to listen to it, I think, guys. Absolutely rogue one. I don't even know if it is from the doublers. Is it rogue? Is that something like Luis Diaz, maybe? Or Jared Bowen? Jared Bowen would be the differential, I think, to pick in midfield. I kind of want to say Connor Bradley for defenders. But not sure he's going to be a defender by the time we get to the weekend. Goalkeeper differential. I mean, Ortega, if Edison is out, is going to be owned by absolutely no one. Forwards is rough this week, as said. Jeez. Maybe even Evan Nilsson, ironically, maybe against Palace, should have scored again last night. Might be one. Joran Visser against Brighton, perhaps. Larsson's obviously on a good streak, maybe away to Manchester United. Spooky Sorcerer says, horror of a bench boost with 3 points from 3 on Saturday. Only to be somewhat saved by Connor Bradley. Makes me want to go for bench boost game week 1 next season. Are you planning to do the same next season too? I've discussed this on our Patreon podcast again yesterday. Not yesterday, last week, the differential show with Suj. And for our patrons, we got a Q&A out with Rob Pick today, and I'll speak about it a little bit more as well. Ultimately, it'd be decided by the fixtures. That's what's really important. Last year, the perfect storm of Chelsea, Manchester City playing each other in game week 1. And then if you think about what they did in the next game week, City scored 4 against Ipswich, and then Chelsea scored 6 against Wolves. So bench boost and then potentially wildcard out of it. As it turned out for me, my team looks good enough for game week 2. I proceeded for another game week. But the perfect storm of having Liverpool against Ipswich, Newcastle against Southampton, Tottenham against Leicester. And it's not Tottenham and now. What we thought Tottenham going to game week 1 was score a lot of goals. Remember, I had 4 Tottenham because I'd bought Solanke in and left the team for a week. So that perfect storm where I had from Liverpool, Newcastle and Tottenham, I had 10 players against the promoted teams. Teams in game week 1 won't rotate. They'll pick their strongest team. Unless it might be different. You might have a team might play in a Super Cup game next year, for example. But it's not. If you drop them fixtures, just think about this logically. If you drop Liverpool, Ipswich, Newcastle, Southampton, Tottenham against Leicester in the middle of a football season, the chances of rotation are far greater at some point in the middle than they are in game week 1. If you've got that perfect storm, also I didn't go Salah. So I thought the best captaincy in game week 1 last year was a player was priced at, I think it was 8.5 in Alexander Isak. So that enabled me to really beef up the squad and wild card quite quickly off it. So the fixtures are really important, right? If we have something where, I don't know, you've got games that don't look quite so attractive in game week 1, let's say, I don't know, Liverpool have Brighton away, you know, Arsenal were away to Nottingham Forest and things like that, and you might think, nah, it's not on. I don't like it. So I think the fixtures in game week 1 and then the consequence of a potential wild card to get away from the structure of that quite quickly if need be is what's going to be dependent. I've done it the last 2 years. I think last season I identified quite early on that it was the wrong decision because of the doubles at the end were going to look better than I'd anticipated. This year, I think it was a success. I scored 26 points off it in game week 1. I think that obviously went really well and it's going to be very difficult for people to match. I'm not sure if I'll ever match it with a game week 1 bench boost again, by the way. But ultimately, it will come down to the fixtures. If the fixtures look great in game week 1 and obviously chips are the same, maybe we've got Arseman again. I think we knew that the mystery chip would be something that was going to be able to be used across doubles, whatever it was. Then yeah, there's every chance to be doing it again in game week 1. I think it'd be way more popular next season. Ultimately, unless something happens beyond what we can foresee, an event that means a whole set of fixtures are postponed or something like that, it's very difficult to envisage that we will get back to the days of having, there's 10 teams with a double. Because I think one of the problems now is actually 4 good teams with a double, which in itself is quite lucky, right? I think across City, in sort of Marmoush and Vardy, I would imagine if Haaland had been fit. But Arsenal, Palace and Villa have all been quite interesting this season. City speaks for itself historically. There's players to pick from them, but it's a fight to pick 12, right? Trebles from each. It would be much better if we go, actually, I'm just going to go Vardy on Marmoush. Maybe I'm going to go treble Arsenal. Maybe I'm going to go 2 Villa. I think Palace rotate. Maybe I'll go like Henderson in goal. If you had another 6 teams to pick from, you'd be way more inclined to think, I'll have that talisman for, Jared Bowen's got a double. Like, I'll stick him in. They've got a double. I'll put him in. You'd feel way more inclined to be holding that bench boost for a big double. It feels like this is regularly what it's going to be. The way it stands at the moment, our anticipation is that the fixture calendar next year is going to look very similar to this. And therefore, the days of the big double feels like it's gone. And this bench boost, many of you who are using it now will feel like it's acting like a bit of a noose. It's like, I've got a plan for this. I know so many of you planned for last week, and it's like Haaland gets injured, Wood gets injured. Like, what am I going to do? Getting rid of it, I don't think it's the worst policy. You're never going to get mega points out of it. I mean, the 26 points I got in game week 1, I won't get that if I do it again in game week 1 next season. Very, very unlikely. That's an amazing score, really, for a bench boost in terms of your 4 weakest players. I think if the fixtures land in the right way, bench boost game week 1 next year, I think could well be quite popular. It probably does need a very early wild card to go with it. And that was the mistake I made season 1, was continuing. I say season 1, sorry, the first season I used it. Which also did all right, I got 19 points on it. This season, bench boost, get off it and start, and I've got a lead and then progress from there. Next up is Jerry W. Says, when signing a goalkeeper, is it compulsory that he should be able to play out of the back like most top teams? Or is getting it done with the basics, aka old school enough, or both old school and modern? Let's take an example. Let's take Courtois. So I don't think Courtois is great with his feet. Does anybody think he's a bad goalkeeper? Like if you could get Courtois tomorrow, let's say Man United got Courtois as an Onana replacement. Onana, I still think he's great with his feet, but the way United play now, it's kind of a waste of time. I covered that yesterday. If United got Courtois, you think anyone going, I don't think it's that great with his feet. So I don't think it's a necessity, but Courtois makes up for it because he's obviously a great goalkeeper. That's an example. Many others, you can get away with some of the other stuff that maybe some of the more goalkeeper basics, because of what it offers you in terms of the way you're able to play stylistically. But I don't deem it as an absolute necessity. I would say, a Courtois at Man City, does it work? Yeah, but it might be a little bit more awkward, for example. Matt Sells, outstanding football player. Is he great with his feet? No, but Forest keep the game quite simplistic for him, so it's fine. So it's up to matching to the styles of teams. But if you've got a goalkeeper as extraordinary like a Courtois or maybe Jan Oblak might be another example. Maybe I don't. If your goalkeeper is that good as the kind of more basic traditional goalkeeping, you'll get away with it. Jerry Darmy says, do you think it's all game over for Madrid against Arsenal in the second leg, since Arsenal defence looks unstoppable in the sense they concede 2 at the most, that 2 against Liverpool way back when? I was trying to think this earlier and I don't know the answer, but I think last time Arsenal conceded 3 might have been when they lost 4-1 at Man City. Which, blimey, is that 2 years ago now? Roughly? I think that's probably about right. There might be one that I'm missing in there somewhere. But I've never played away to Real Madrid over that time. Truthfully, I don't see them turning it around. I actually think it's more likely that Arsenal just win again on the night than go out. Wouldn't surprise me at all if you end up in a scenario where the game's done and it becomes quite comfortable for Arsenal. But if Madrid score, suddenly you'll feel that sap of, it's just psychological. It's absolutely different going there. There's no doubt they have the star power of ability at the top end of the pitch to score the goals. You would fancy probably Arsenal more than any other side in this sort of scenario. I do think they'll go through. I don't have much doubt about it. I hope I'm wrong. Birth Media says, greeting James from South Africa. Please pick a differential. I did that. How did I end up with that question before? Big Chief says, hi James. If you still had your free hit, Wildcard and Arseman. I'm set up for 33 already. What would you do? Right, so you don't want a free hit. You don't want a wildcard. Presumably you don't want to use your assistant manager. Most logical here would probably be, under your circumstance, free hit 34 if you're set well now. Wildcard 35 and then assistant manager 36 to 38. I can't see your team, obviously, but that would feel right to me. Spooky Sorcerer says, with Palmer to Saka the obvious move, do you think Isak to Watkins for a hit is worth it, or just go with Isak? We'll be going into the double game with 0 Villa free hitting in game week 34. How quickly is Watkins going to be a problem for you when you hit 35? Now, I know Isak's fixtures aren't brilliant. At least you know what you get. I wouldn't be a consideration for me. Let me sell it to you like this. I could do it. I think it's very, very unlikely that I'm in a scenario that I'm considering that, unless I believe there's a doubt around Alexander Isak going into the weekend. Now, it might be a little bit different for me because I've got mass value in Isak. I'm like $1 million up on him as well. You might not be, so it might be easier to sell. But I think, no, I wouldn't be considering that, truthfully. Shafwan Kanaka says, hi, James. Plan to bench boost this week. Cannot get Vardiol. If I'm to get KDB, Saka and Rodgers, would you then go Diaz or Kivior? Also, is your preferred Arsenal defender outside Saliba? Cheers, mate. It probably is Kivior. I'd say an amazing stat I noticed today, which is hard to believe. David Raya is Arsenal's top scoring FPL points player. Now, I know that's a heavy influence on Gabriel, Odegaard, Saka, Havertz all having injuries at various points in the season, but that is remarkable for the team second in the league, actually. It's not to suggest you have to go Raya. It's probably Kivior. Again, there's probably work to be done in terms of building that relationship. I do wonder if there could be a little bit of rotation. Remember, it is still Sunday, Wednesday. And I think maybe the Sunday game might be the one where you might get some. But it also depends on the availability of others. Is Timber going to be available? Ben White going to be available? What can they do defensively to change it? It's not a huge amount. So I think probably Kivior. Timber is probably quite dependent on Ben White's status in terms of minutes. But I think they're always cautious with him because of the previous ACL injury, which makes perfect sense. Going Diaz instead of Vardiol seems fine to me, mate. Probably prefer that one as the downgrade if necessary. There is a cool Shafwan away round this, and it's you sacrifice one of KDB or Saka and pick a different route. Diljit07 says, when will we see a Planet FPL beard meets food collab? I don't know, mate. On a similar note, what food challenge would you back yourself to complete? We've done a few here, mate. Me and Suja had a 4 Big Macs race about a year ago before he went off to Portugal. I'm still waiting for our friend Az from Black Box to let me know the time and the place for the Nuggets challenge. He's offered me out for a chicken nuggets challenge, and I told him he's stupid. He's still young, good looking. I'm not. So he gets beat. So Az, if you're listening and you're watching, I'm just waiting for the invite, mate. You tell me, pal. Big Chief, I've covered. Sorry. Chiri Damayu says, with United's scoring problem, is it advisable for them to get someone who knows the Premier League inside out at a higher cost, or take a punt for a prolific goal scorer outside the Premier League who matches Amram's style? I don't think it has to be a Premier League player. That's Victor Osimhen, to give you a name, has obviously been linked quite a lot, and I think he would score goals. I don't think there's much question about that, actually. Whether it would be right for the style, I'll be honest, I'm not so sure. But having seen him play against my team earlier this year, I would say Victor Osimhen will score goals. His movement around the box is great. I've spoken a bit about Liam Delap. I think perhaps being a right solution for United. It's not going to cost the huge amounts if they can get him. But how his performances for Ipswich equate under the pressure of Manchester United, there's a gamble in that, mate, even though he is Premier League experienced now. And I'm sure it would work, by the way. I'm a big fan of Liam Delap and what he might be. But I don't think it's got to be a Premier League player, mate. Nathan Smith says, hi, James. I live in Germany and often go to games here and love having a beer at my seat or where I'm stood. Do you ever think this could work in England, or can we not be trusted still? No, we can't be trusted. I'd say we as the collective, obviously, rather than me or you specifically. Yeah, no, we can't be trusted, mate. And I've been in games in Europe where Tottenham fans have got beers in their seats and stuff, and it's probably just not advisable, mate, actually. No, we can't be trusted. Jerry says, since I have no chips left come game 34, thoughts on getting one of Cunha or Larson for Mateta in 34 due to their juicy run towards the end of the season, assuming Villa win against Palace. Recommend listening to the conversation yesterday with Tom on the Game Review pod, because I covered it quite a bit, so I'll just keep it short. But I think based on what we've just seen, I think Larson probably starts again against Manchester United. And if they win, in fact, Larson will start either way. Sorry, I clarify that better. They'll play the same team again, i.e. Cunha won't start, I don't think. So then I think for Cunha to start against Leicester, you need Wolves to have a bad result against Manchester United for Pereira to feel any urge to change it. He knows Cunha's not going to be with them next season. They're on a good run of form. They deserve their victory again at the weekend. So he wants to stick with his team at the moment. So it needs a bad result for Cunha to get in at the moment. Therefore, by default, if Cunha doesn't start at the weekend and if Wolves win, I think it's got to be Larson. I probably don't think there's a choice on that. Jay says, hi James, I want to take a -4 to replace my burn in double game week 33. Only team I have no double triple is Man City, but is there alternatives in terms of for this week? And I mean, I don't know if you're bench boosting or not, but yeah, Conor Bradley's a standout. If you need a kind of a cheap version, I think I've got West Ham top my ticker for the rest of the season. So Aaron Wan-Bissaka's perfectly fine. Play when you want, don't play when you don't want. I think there's two there to consider. Consider obviously if you went for Diaz, I don't know what you're doing chip wise, but you might have a blanker in 34 and then maybe even a blanker in 37, and it's City players, so you may suffer more rotation. So yeah, I wouldn't rule out looking at Liverpool and West Ham particularly. And if you are really thinking longer term, towards the end of the season, and perhaps not so fussy about this week, I think also Forest, Brentford and Wolves also really fall into that category. So Milenkovic or Williams subject to money, Aït-Nouri or Agbadou subject to money, and I think Nathan Collins at Brentford as well. Not great for this week, but if you need to carry it to the end of the season, you don't necessarily overlook them. CMP says, why do you think the Ange experiment failed? Did the league just figure him out, or worry the same thing will happen to Areola? Bournemouth were more secure. I mean, you even see that last night. I mean, the last 25 minutes of that game last night, was there a shot? I quite enjoyed the game otherwise, but yeah, it was pretty tedious towards the end, actually. So they're defensively more solid. Helps that people like Dean Howson, despite one odd mistake with Marcus Senesi last night, are far more stable than players like even Christian Romero in terms of individual errors or risk taking. So I don't think we could say there's a danger Iriola would be found out. He might be. With Ange, it's a combination of that. It's teams got used to how they had to set up against us, and more the bigger point is it's very easy to take advantage of us once there's a turnover. We're pretty much just done all over as soon as we lose the ball, and that never feels the case against the Bournemouth, right? So yes, Ange is obviously hugely responsible for it. I don't think even winning Europa League is going to save him now. I think he's done, unfortunately. I think he also knows it. Yes, the league figured him out. I think what Ange wanted to do was coach Tottenham to a very high level of being the best team, which is obviously was like very successful for him with Celtic and other clubs around the world. But Tottenham aren't the best team, weren't going to be the best team. And I think to coach that when this league is so ruthless in terms of exploitation and against so many kind of varied systems, it's not like every team in our league plays the same way. Some play threes at back, some fours, some are aggressive, some like to go low block, some want to press. There's so many varied styles, but between them all, what they all have in common is they know how to hurt Tottenham. All of us can see how to hurt Tottenham. So yeah, ultimately, I'm disappointed it's not worked out. It goes without saying that I wanted it to. But ultimately, yeah, it's on him, isn't it? The excuses are gone now because everyone's fit. And that's why, if Thursday goes bad, he might be in a position, I think, for the first time for the whole season, he might actually be able to pick his best 11 on Thursday night. I have that as a little bit of sympathy there, obviously. But then if that 11 gets well beat in a similar manner to how we've done in many other games this season, there's nowhere to hide anymore. They're a good side, Frankfurt, but I don't think, even though they'll probably beat us on Thursday, I don't think they go on and win the competition. I think one of Man United or Bilbao will go on and win the competition. So, they're not unbeatable. We should be in a position where we can do something here with our full strength team, basically near enough available. I think Kulusevski will probably start. Jerry Damayu says, if you're given two options where one of them is winning trophies with low possession, dull football, aka Leicester style, or would you choose Poch's attractive football, even if it ends trophyless? That's a really tough question, but I would say if you ask a Leicester fan, were they bored with their dull football, as you quote it, I think they will tell you that when they had Vardy and Mahrez running at the opposition, there wasn't much boring about it. So as long as you've got players that can play really well on the counter-attack, think a little bit like Forest with Elanga and Hudson-Odoi and Gibbs-White now. Like, ask a Forest fan if they've been bored this season. I don't think so. So the problem is when you play, let's call it more negative football rather than necessarily dull or even conservative or pragmatic maybe. When it doesn't work, it's awful. That's more the point. It's awful, and I've obviously experienced that with Mourinho as an example, right? Like, it's soulless to lose games of football playing in that kind of brand and style, right? When it's winning, it's fine. And listen, if Mourinho had won trophies at Tottenham, for example, and been successful playing that brand, we'd have got on board with it, right? We kind of, when he got given the job, you sign up to that. It's like, right, okay, we've been this, now we must win. If you don't win playing this kind of style, then it's awful. Whereas the Poch style is, or how at least it was saying, the Tottenham team, you could buy into that. So even when you lost, you largely felt quite positive about the team and what they were trying to do and the energy they show. So yeah, I wouldn't want to swap anything for that last season at the old White Hart Lane, for example. But I don't know, offer me a boring football season that ends with a league title. Yeah, probably if you're offering me right now, I'd probably take the title, mate. If it's just one, because that's all I want once in my lifetime before I go, right? Just give me one league title. So yeah, I'd probably take it however that was. So probably the dull, but it's got to be successful playing that style. Leicester fans wouldn't have been bored that year, mate. Murphy says, bench boost 33 with 3 free transfers. I'll use 2 of them on Livramento to Bradley and Murphy to Rodgers. But then don't have the money for Gabriel to Saliba. Is Kivior safe enough to punt? And if not, who for 6 million and below? Again, kind of Connor Bradley shouting out as an alternative. What are you hoping for, Kivior? 6-pointer and a 2-pointer, realistically. Is that really 8-pointer? Be pretty good, don't get me wrong. I'm surprised if Connor Bradley outscores that on Sunday. And then Connor Bradley's got the fixture 34. So I don't know what strategy you are afterwards. But if you're not free hitting 34, I'd be going Bradley, mate. Craig Meredith says Foden and Livramento to Kivior and KDB. Or Ruben Diaz and Martinelli / other Arsenal midfielder. Yeah, probably the KDB route, mate. JP says, what defender would you buy for Gabriel, Bradley or Kivior? Again, I think the strategy is important here because if you're free hitting 34, you're drawn towards the Arsenal player. But that Arsenal player is possibly going to give you a headache in 35. I probably would go Kivior, personally, if you're free hitting 34. Otherwise, I'd go Bradley. Murphy says, also Sessegnon and radar for Gameweek 34 and beyond. 2 starts in a row at right wing, and even though he came off early last night, it appeared to have been a cock-up from Silva and his team. Or maybe it was the officials. I didn't see any of the interviews after the game. I'd recorded the game and went to bed as soon as it finished. Sessegnon could be interesting. What I would say is I don't think you can buy him now. I think. Again, I spoke about it a bit on our Q&A today. I think about investing now feels rough. I think he starts again against Chelsea. If he has a good weekend, and then it's definitely one I'll be looking at for a potential wild card in 34, to just play against Southampton, and then leave him probably, even despite the fact he might be OOP, just leave him on the bench for the rest of the season, quite possibly. So, yeah, I've got strong eyes on him. I would recommend against him being anyone's solution this week, because obviously with it being a blank, if you are running through, you don't want someone who's going to be a sub, right? So it needs to wait, I think, for it to be in a position where in 10 days' time we felt confident that he would start. And under that circumstance, then, yeah, he'd be right under consideration for me, mate. Colin Johnson says, hi, James. Best options for Gabriel. How many Villa to get? I'm going to kind of skip over that, Colin, because I think we've kind of done it. And we, Kivior and Bradley, Wan-Bissaka, a couple of options. In terms of Villa, I mean, I wouldn't want to go too heavy if you're buying, mate, personally, because just rotation going to be ongoing, I think, every week. Even more so, obviously, if they do turn it round against PSG tonight. But do we actually know what his best team is? Do we know if Watkins is in it? Do we know if Rashford, Asensio are in it? We know Rodgers is in it, so fine, get Rodgers. I know Ezri Konsa is first choice most of the time. I know Emi Martinez is first choice, but I wouldn't be stressed about overcommitting to Villa personally. Tom says, Kudos and Sessegnon for Livramento and Murphy bench boosting 33, by the way. So, Kudos, fine. Not in love with it. Was he got 2 or 3 goals this season? It's not great. He looked lively a Sunday from what I saw of the game. Sessegnon, I do think starts. And I'm going to guess from the fact that you want to go him, Tom, that you don't have a free hit in 34. In which case, sure, I get it. I don't know if that's where I'd want to go now, though. Because it almost feels like a pick now for later. That's what I'm guessing here, that you're not free hit in 34. Therefore, I understand why I wanted to look at both. But are there other alternatives that are cheap that maybe you could consider that will cover them off? Like Agbadou, as an example. Agbadou is a certain starter for Wolves. And I get it, it's Man United away this week. But is Man United away any worse than playing Chelsea at home? I'm not sure it is. And I get the OOP status of Sessegnon. But Agbadou might well be in and around the bonus, by the way, in any clean sheet that Wolves might keep. So I don't mind that as an alternative. And at least with Agbadou, unless he got injured, that is a certain starter for you, no doubt about it. So that's an alternative, maybe. Hemdog says, Hi, James. Would you advise on waiting until after Thursday before making moves so we can determine double blank picture? Love the content as per. I mean, I'd advise this week waiting anyway with the fixtures. Even if you've got any Chelsea players, they're playing Thursday night. I'm sure they're going to pretty much play a second team, you would think. Still want to get through it unscathed. You might turn out afterwards, Namrim says, yeah, look, you know what, we're going to change the whole team on Sunday. You might feel strongly about going to get a Larson now, for example. Yeah, there's loads of reasons to wait. I'm not suggesting any of them things are going to happen. But there's loads of reasons to wait. And I think that, to repeat what I said earlier about 37, it's not Tottenham's result. It's not definitive for what happens next at all. Remember, if Tottenham go out, and technically the Villa-Tottenham game can be played on Tuesday. That's better for Villa. Okay? Obviously, on the subject, Villa get to the final. But I'll repeat what I keep saying over and over and over again. For these teams who double in game week 36, who have an FA Cup final afterwards, good luck getting a player that's going to start twice. You will arguably be more interested in the teams that play against them. For example, the team that may well interest me most for game week 36 if they had the double could be Wolves. Wolves against Brighton at home and then a weakened Crystal Palace away. Genuinely might interest me more. With the form they're on, Palace rotating, why are we bogged down in, you're going to have a double? Right, I can see that you know that they'll blank afterwards, but don't really blank, right? Because they've got an FA Cup final on the Saturday, which for the teams in it, is going to be their most important game of the season. Even probably for Manchester City, if it's Man City. Even for Forest trying to fight for Champions League. Even arguably for Villa in a Champions League quarterfinal. Most definitely for Palace if they get there. The most important game of the season is going to be the game after. So we think what players are going to play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, even under that circumstance. It's going to be a rotation hell. Please don't overthink it. Look at 36 and know that Nottingham Forest are playing Leicester at home. And that's a good fixture either way. Look at game week 36 and know that Man City are playing at Southampton. And actually, it might be easier to predict their team if they've only got a single fixture rather than a double fixture. Brentford are away to Ipswich. Don't necessarily overlook these things. Fulham and Everton with decent fixtures, but potentially playing each other. Just don't obsess about the doublers too much for that at the end. It is going to be a lot of rotation, guys. I'm pretty convinced about that. For anyone who's got the FA Cup final afterwards. But yeah, to go back to the point, don't think, Tottenham are out. I'm not going to move the projections until I know what them game week 37 TV picks are. And I'm less bullish on the thought of, if Tottenham are out, then I don't think there'll be doubles in 36. I think, like I said, if there's a Tuesday 37 game, I'm definitely going to predict the fixtures will come forward, with the exception probably being West Ham Forest. Next up, says Stephen Senna, says, Hi James, is it worth transferring Murphy to Bowen? Bench boost 33, free hit 34, exact funds. Looks like a better option than Rodgers after 33. Yep, fine with that. Spoken about West Ham and their fixtures. Murphy, if you take the Ipswich game out, that's pretty bad, isn't it? Villa away, Brighton away, Chelsea at home, Arsenal away. Doing great. But Barnes' form complicates things a little bit moving forward, perhaps. Could Gordon play on the right? Possible in certain fixtures, but I think that the toughness of some of them games Murphy will continue to play, I would think. But yeah, I'm not going to give you a reason not to make that transfer, mate, other than I'd leave it till late in the week if you can. Harry Trimble says, is it mad to muddle through blank game week 34 and save the free hit for double game week 36? For 34, I'd have 8 players plus 2 free transfers. Salah, Bradley, Isak, Murphy, Trippier, Milenkovic for Bruggen. There's a case for it. Consider muddling through it though. Are you getting the best of what you've got now, Harry? Like, are you gonna possibly fuck up the next 2 weeks because you muddle through, hoping that something might look better at the end? Look, having the free hit for the end, I don't think it's a terrible thing. If 36 and 37 are just 2 normal game weeks, right, and you don't like either, may I suggest that game week 38 will give you a get out where you could go, across from teams such as West Ham, Ipswich, Newcastle home to Everton, Arsenal go to Southampton, Bournemouth have Leicester at home. You could free hit like from them 4 teams. You probably won't have a lot of coverage from them. You might do now, by the way, but by the time you hit 37, you probably won't have that much Newcastle, Bournemouth, Arsenal, honestly. So there's a get out. That's your get out for free hit if under the circumstances there was no doubles. And obviously you can adjust, right? Either 36 will look bad for you or 37 will look bad, and you can plan your way. So if you're in a good set, Harry, and that doesn't sound bad at all, it sounds okay, I would say. Then I don't mind it. But just be cautious that you're not maximizing what you can have now in the meantime. Thomas Thornton says, when do you think the best bench boost week is if you have Toon, Palace, City, Villa, Arsenal, Forest, Bournemouth? Cheers, matey. Now. Can't tell you what's going to happen at the end. So now, I mean, what you've got good coverage of City, Villa, Arsenal, and Palace. They've all got doubles now, mate. Henry Malouche says, can I hear what you reckon the top 8 in order will be? Yeah, okay. Liverpool is a shock, isn't it? Liverpool, Arsenal, I'm going to say Newcastle, Man City, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Villa. And 8th, I'm going to go for... It's open, isn't it? Oh, it's tough. Maybe still Brighton. In fact, it's Brighton, Bournemouth, Fulham's going to be really close, isn't it? I think Palace's fixtures overall, them away games going to be tough for them to chase it. Brentford, I think, might be just a little bit too far off. I'll go Brighton, but I think Brighton, Bournemouth, Fulham could be so close. And to repeat, by the way, that's likely to be a Conference League place, 8th. Subject to a few things, particularly like if Crystal Palace win the FA Cup. But yeah, 8th, I'll probably get Conference League place. Next up is Greg. Says, hi James, triple captain Saka 33 or chance of game week 36? Marmoush, why not Marmoush 33? Just go away and think about it. If I had the triple captain left and wasn't playing another chip this week, that's what I would be doing. Thomas Thornton says, love your work, the best by a mile. Thank you, Thomas, much appreciated. Neil Kager says, hi James, no question, just wanted to say thanks for those lazy bones that hit the like. Thanks, mate, much appreciated. Christopher C says, hey James, thoughts on triple Arsenal defence? I mean, I go KDB instead of Saka, bench boost 33. I don't mind that at all. Why not? Most trustworthy defence in league. If you go like Raya, Kivior, Saliba, could be gold there, mate. Let's not pretend that it's going to be shit. It could be gold, mate. So no, I don't mind it. And factor in what I said about the Saka problem later on. Here's the thing: if you thought Saka wasn't going to play against Bournemouth, and then it's like Liverpool away, I don't want it. You're going to sell it, aren't you? The Arsenal players you might even be able to hide, and then keep for the end and 37 and 38. Yeah, I don't mind it, mate. Patrick Benjaminson says, hi James, worth doing Murphy and Isak to De Bruyne and Wood for free. Yeah, just factor in with Isak about value. Are you going to want him back for 34? Maybe a free hit in 34. So in which case, yeah, can't give you many reasons not to if that's what you fancy. Is Wood definitively better than Isak this week? No, but actually, I'm trying to think here. You maybe been in Isak to get KDB in, isn't it? Sorry. That's what this is going to be, isn't it? Selling Isak to afford De Bruyne. Personally, I don't think I'd bother. Personally, I'd rather keep hold of Isak if you're running through. If you're free hitting 34, I get it. If you haven't got free hit 34, surely you want Isak 34. For me, no, I think I would just look at alternatives and look at something that was affordable in and around Jacob Murphy's price. What if, hypothetical here, what if Saka got injured tomorrow night? Yeah, touch wood, genuinely. He doesn't. Is it all back on Wanyeri again? Also, Tanky says, afternoon, James. Do you see Salah captain being very popular by deadline, like 150% EO, or will be people go for Saka? What was Salah this week? Top 10k, it was sort of 110, 115, something. I think probably be similar. I think most will be drawn to go to the doubler. So yeah, I think it'll be similar. I think if you don't captain him, he's going to be a small loser in the book, I think. But I don't see it being to that scale like you've mentioned. Though I think last week, it did feel like last week nearly everybody went for Isak. I'm sure there'll be more Salah captains this week than there was last week. Andrew Barton says, hi James, I'm chasing, so thinking game week 33, Gabriel to Diaz and Murphy to Marino, free hit 34. Yes, fine. I just wonder if there's an alternative in there. Probably not a Man City enabler at that point. Maybe a Villa player and just forget the City player. So Gabriel to Saliba and then Murphy to Rodgers, for example, as an alternative. Have a listen to Clash of Correspondence tomorrow. Or as said earlier as a plug, you can join us on Patreon for free, and that podcast is available now. Hear what Adam Pritchard says on Marino. He's not high on it for this week. Rhino says, hi James, should I cut my losses on Gordon or hope he gets back in the team? No free hit or wild card. Good luck in Germany. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I think that's, well, is it a cut low? I know what you're saying, game week 34, isn't it? You're saying you got nothing left. No free hit or wild card. I think it is anyway, Ed, because it's only really the Ipswich game you're holding for, isn't it? The others around it isn't great. So, I think it's a bin, mate. And you might find that opens up a different Newcastle player, maybe an enabler one that you can find. You start it in 34 and 38 and find something for, I don't know, 35, 37, Wan-Bissaka as an example, maybe in between. But I think, yeah, it probably would be a move on, mate. See, obviously, what happens in the game tomorrow night. Hillbilly says, looking at Livramento Nico to Bradley / Consa. Could do either or both for free, but will cause hits in 36, 37. Not sure it's worth it. So that cause hits if there were like doubles and stuff, right? Consa will play. Obviously, there's a chance there's a blank in 37 might cause you a problem. Obviously, goes without saying. Bradley's obviously very dependent on what happens with Trent, isn't it? I think Bradley's fine for the next two, because I think for Trent to start against Tottenham, he'd have to be on the bench against Leicester. There's no indication that's going to happen as far as I'm aware at the moment. So Bradley, I'm sure, plays the next two. Good asset. It was extremely good against us, by the way, in the League Cup semi-final at Anfield in January. Absolutely terrific, kind of Bradley. Yeah, I'd probably chase it, mate. I'd probably chase it. If you haven't got like free hits to cover off things at this stage, some hits are going to be inevitable, isn't it? I think. Andrew Parker says, unless you've obviously got the free transfers in the bank, but if you haven't, you haven't. Shouldn't necessarily regret what's gone. Andrew Parker says, hi mate, hope you're well and have fun on Thursday. I'm sure I will, to about 9 o'clock UK, European time, mate. Planning Howell, Semenyo, Murphy to Arteta, KDB and Bowen with 0.1 in the bank. Not sure on Villa with rotation. Think Bowen going under the radar this week. Good luck, Andrew. Didn't see a question there, so I'm not going to answer one. Sounds fine, mate. Maestro 18 says, afternoon James, hope you're well. I'm on wildcard 34. Would you say Watkins or Marino is worth a hit over just playing Isak? Appreciate all your hard work. No, I don't think so. It's covered earlier. So I've got Isak. I'm going to be wildcarding 34. It's not at this stage run through my mind to take him out. Well, it's run through my mind, but I'm not doing it unless I've got a concern over his fitness. James says, if Ederson is injured for the first game of the double, hoping for a leak, is Ortega the obvious transfer? Or someone like Areola and get a third City elsewhere? Already have Vardiol and Marmoush. Right, if it's just out for the first game, it's like, oh, Ederson might be back for the second game, then that's useless to you, isn't it, mate? You kind of want, we don't wish it, but obviously you would want, Ederson's out for 3-4 weeks. Right, is that even enough? Because don't you want Ortega till the end of the season with the fixture City have got, potentially? So I'm sure it's one with the goalkeeper. It's probably not going to be, that's the City team's turned up with Goodison. You'll probably know by Friday night. Let's be honest. The press conference for Pep last week was dominated by non-team news stuff from the TV media. And the written media asked the right questions and Pep told them Foden's injured. And that's the only reason why you never found out till late in the day. Matt Lacking says, hi James, would you go Elanga or Bowen for Murphy? On bench boost 33, free hit 34, 2 free transfers. Bowen would mean downgrading Livramento. Probably to Moreno, though slight mins risk. With that's dependent obviously on Ola Aina's fitness. You'll get nothing from Nuno, mate. I'm sure when Ola Aina is fit to play, he will play, although I think the suggestion had been that he probably won't be back for this week. It's probably a better choice than Moreno, though, I think. Considering it will give you a headache and something else you get may not. But yeah, ultimately, Matt, I'd be going Jared Bowen. Aidan says, hi James, bring in Bumo or Bowen this week for bench boost and hold for the rest of the season. Free hit 34. Do you have a solution where you can have both for the rest of the season? If it's a choice of one, I think you go Bumo, don't you? I think so. Bowen's obviously better this week, but if it's got to go to the end, I think it's Bumo between the two, mate. Brian Lee says, hi James, triple Newcastle and Foden. My only concerns going into bench boost game with 33, free hit 34. 0.1 million and 2 free transfers. What are the sensible moves? I only have Conser from Villa, tripled on Arsenal, Palace, City and Salah. Sensible moves. Maybe not Bradley under your strategy, but West Ham's fine. Bowen, Wan-Bissaka, Areola. Honestly, I've got West Ham top my ticket for the last 6. We get obsessed with the doubles. I think it's fine. Forest, I got second. It's not a brilliant fixture, despite what you think of my team. I don't think it's a great fixture for Forest. And that, as discussed yesterday, they may find themselves with real pressure on them come Monday night. But they're fine till the end of the season. Brentford, good fixture to the end of the season. Don't just look at the doublers. Please have a look at some of these single game week teams. Because for many of you who've used your wild card, there is no correcting this. Okay? Wildcarded for a team that looks strong in 33, and that was the correct thing to do. But there's no correcting this where you make 15 changes and change it all for the teams in the run-in. Just remember to look beyond what is now. And I'm not in love with a lot of these doublers. I'm not. There's every chance I might buy, say, Rodgers this week. Because I'd look at it and go, right, he is indestructible. He plays all the games. Fine. I'm wild card off it and not worry about it afterwards as well. Now, I've got that. I've obviously been in kind of a situation. We've been firefighting the last few weeks. But then I can get off of all this going into game week 34. Many of you have got a wild card that you played. And you've got to stick with many of your selections. Don't necessarily add to... You might have... all of you are going to have some problems that don't look great afterwards, right? Don't necessarily add to the fire, is all I'm saying. You go something like a Boomo this week, it's done. He's staying there for the end of the season. It's a good choice. Just consider these things. That's all I'm saying. We are drawn to the doublers, and I completely understand it. Kieran Murphy says, hi James, would you do Murphy to Rodgers and Livramento to Diaz for -4, or only one of those transfers? Again, strategy is quite important here, right? Because if you're not free hitting 34, I wouldn't bother with any of that, mate. Because I think you probably get more joy out of Murphy and Livramento in 34 than the other two in 33. So strategy is really important here. On the face of it, Kieran, probably a no unless you are definitely free hitting in 34. If you are free hitting in 34, I get it. You want to chase the doublers. But arguably just Murphy to Rogers if you can do just the one. Kieran Mahan says thoughts on Bowen and Boomo in this week for Gordon and Palmer. No wild card or free hit left on 7 doublers. Use bench boost 32 for 33 points. Wow. Well, yep, that's your bench score and not your old team, mate. Yeah, Bowen and Boomo said I've got no reason to say no to that. It's fine, mate. Cloudy FPL saying Luton last season 4-3. I can't remember what that's in relation to. Arsenal conceding 3 goals. Quite right, yeah. It's Declan Rice late goal at Kenilworth Road, wasn't it? Good shout. Kay Adams says, hi James, do you think Newcastle can be challenging for league title next season? Need far bigger depth. I think it's fair to say when their first 11 is fit, match for anyone. I actually backed them to finish 3rd in pre-season. I have to say there's plenty of times during the course of the season I didn't think that would be the case. I think it probably will be now. Yeah, look, first 11's great. Match, it's worth saying they've obviously had Botman injured and a few issues in goal as well. Need greater squad depth. No doubt about that. I don't think, unless Liverpool bombed and nobody else improved next year, in which case, 75 points was going to win the league. I say, yeah, sure, they could do it. But they'll need greater squad depth. They're highly likely playing Champions League football next year. That creates complications in terms of maintaining your consistency within the Premier League. So it's probably more likely a no. The most important thing for Newcastle, I'll tell you this honestly, if Newcastle finish 3rd, finishing 4th or 5th, if it's top 5 again next year, will be a good finish. It's not to say you should accept regression, but the key to punching through and staying there is getting in the Champions League 2 years in a row. So it's not saying Newcastle shouldn't aim for a title next year and be ambitious about it. I'm just saying if they finish in the top 5 next year, if they finish top 5 the next year again, we are definitely talking about splitting up a big 6, which I realise on the pitch doesn't exist anymore. I refer a conversation Clayton and I had a number of weeks ago on Clayton and James show, but as a financial, it does still exist. Newcastle need to punch that and then they're in. 2 years in a row Champions League football and then they're in and they will stay in. That's the most important thing for them. Next up is Lukey Boy 123. Would you say the fixtures for teams in the FA Cup final are more likely to go into 36 or 37? You Tottenham get knocked out on Thursday. Can't say. I think it's going to come down to TV quite a lot. And generally, will Sky want to clash a Premier League game with a Championship playoff semi-final second leg? I don't know. Obviously, if Tottenham go out, Villa Tottenham can go on the Tuesday. Man City Bournemouth can go on the Tuesday. Under that circumstance, so can Crystal Palace and Wolves go on the Tuesday. I think Tottenham going through in Europe would guarantee the prospect of Villa Tottenham going into 36 if Villa make the cup final. And also, I think by consequence, Crystal Palace would not double in 36. I think they would not make them play on the Wednesday night if Palace got to the final rather than Villa. In the case with Villa, there is no choice. None at all. So there is implications to teams that are slightly different based on what might happen with Tottenham. Again, I think the Gameweek 37 TV picks are possibly going to be quite important. Steamroller says, hello, legend, your favourite Serbian player that played in Premier League. I think that said I lost the question. Milos Velkovic, mate, played for Tottenham. I think he's now, I want to say maybe a Werder Bremen. I think could be Wolfsburg. Might have that wrong. Yeah, made like 1 league appearance for Tottenham, so I'm gonna say him, mate. It's Vidic, I think, isn't it? Realistically, top centre back. Unami Rycroft says, all right, mate, wildcard in 34, looking to take a -4 to take out Pope and Palmer in 33 for Raya / Ortega and Saka / KDB. Worth it. Which would you choose? So it's 1 week punts here, basically. So take out Pope and Palmer in 33 for Raya / Ortega, Saka, KDB. Well, a lot of this depends on Edison, doesn't it? It's probably ultimately going to be the answer. Probably prefer Raya and Saka, but I'm guessing that's not the combination you're looking for here. So Edison, I mean, if Edison's fit, that's decision made, isn't it? I think, ultimately. Right, I'm going to cover 4 more because I can see I've gone past 3 o'clock. I'll finish with Chris Green's question. I'll just do these quick. Magic69 says, Bradley a good alternative to double game defenders? Yes. Doug the Slug says, no free hit left, so I need to make 3-4 transfers for game at 34. What players' teams do you think are best for 34 and to hold for the rest of the season? Thanks. So 34, Forest and Brentford, even though they're playing each other, I think are really good pickups. West Ham is probably more of a pick-up now. Brighton away, not great, but good run until the end of the season. Wolves is the one. And that is our clash of correspondence next week, by the way, is Wolves versus Leicester with Bradley Parker and Sam Martin. So I think Wolves, Fulham maybe, obviously go Southampton by default. Don't overlook the fact that Liverpool and Newcastle will obviously have great fixtures as well. And Chelsea against Everton is a decent fixture as well. Football Chatbox says, good evening from Australia, James. Hope you're having a good day. Good afternoon from England. Hope you're having a good day too. Chris Green says, which of your previous podcasts should I listen back to so I can understand the permutations of what needs to happen for double game at 36 plays? This one. Because anything that I've said previously might have changed. So I could say to you, go and listen to Chips and the Arse Man, but the opinions changed a little bit since then. I now think these Game Week 37 TV pits could be quite important. And Tottenham winning, okay, is good for a Villa double in 36, but would be bad for a Palace double, okay? Tottenham losing possibly opens up the prospect for both, but there may be a clash for the Championship playoff. The TV is going to decide this. Ultimately, guys, TV will win. And double Game Week 36 is going to be absolutely full of rotation anyway. I'll leave it there, guys. For those I've not got through to in terms of your questions, apologies. Thank you for contributing to the chat. If you want to tag me at Planet FPL Pod on Twitter or Blue Sky, please feel free to do so, and I will get back to you before the end of the day. Clash of Correspondence tomorrow, Ipswich versus Arsenal with Paul Gort Allen. Adam Pritchard has said you can sign up to Patreon as a free member, no charge, and you can listen to it now if you wish to do so. The video will be available tomorrow. And also Clash of Correspondence Thursday, West Ham versus Southampton with Chris Stone and Matt Samuel. As a reminder, no content on Friday or next Monday. I'm in Germany Friday. It's a bank holiday here in the UK next Monday. So Game Review podcast will be next Tuesday. There will be a deadline stream on Saturday, 12:30 p.m. UK time. So if you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. For the benefit of those on audio, 5-star review goes a really long way. And for those of you on YouTube, smash a like, hit the sub button. For those on the audio, cue music, please, man child.